me explain this section a little more clearly. So all this trim will be calculated based on how many linear feet we need, right? So let's just use this fascia board, for example. This fascia board is 30 feet long. We're going to need 30 feet of board to, put this fascia on. We don't really care what the square footage is, right? Now, so your soffit can be treated a little differently, right? So if your soffit is, depending on what material you are using, you might want to use the square footage of your soffit to calculate how much material you will need, right? So for example, if we're using specific soffit material where we only need one board for our soffit, then we probably want to use linear feet. So for example, if we have a 24-inch Hardy vented soffit, wide by 8 feet, right? We're going to use just one of those boards, right, for our soffit. And so we're going to want to click this because we're going to calculate that on linear feet. So if our soffit is 30 feet long, we're going to need 30 feet worth of this material. But if you're using multiple boards, right, or for example you're cutting down some panels to use for this soffit, you're going to want to use your square footage of your soffit to estimate the amount of material, in which case you're going to uncheck that. So for example, let's say you're using 4x8 sheets of Hardy panels, right? You're going to want to use square footage. What is the square footage of your soffit to calculate how much material you will need, right? So don't check this box. Make sure you put in your overhang length, which will always be horizontal. And that will tell you how much material you will need based on the square footage of your soffit. But if you want to know how much soffit you're going to need, you're just using one board for your soffit, then you're going to calculate this because all we care about is linear feet.